Hello all and welcome to a very special review tonight. Why is it a very special review? Because I am reviewing single malt whiskey. Why am I reviewing single malt whiskey? Which is something I love, but it's something I very rarely review because I'm shit poor. Because the good news is I got a new job. And this new job, while having a considerably longer commute, like 3 times my current commute, pays a lot better and has more stability. I'm still be doing security, but it's going to be a lot more stable. It's going to be a lot more remunerative for me. So I'm pretty happy about that. You know what I mean? So what are we reviewing? We are reviewing Port Charlotte Scottish Barley Heavily Peated Islay Single Malt. This is of course by Bruichladdich. The one that I received for Christmas. Of course, only getting around to reviewing it now 6 months on. Because I'm slow like that, if you haven't noticed. It'll take me 2 or 3 months to actually upload the videos I record. If at all that. And, so it'll take me a while to actually get to bottles that I actually treasure. Why? Because I kind of want to savor them and for special occasions like this. And so this is probably one of their more traditional ones. If you want to go and find out more about the distillery Bruichladdich, you can go and see the first video of this series, because remember this came in a 3-bottle set. They're progressive Hebridean distillery. So they do things differently. This is probably their most traditional, but it's not. Even by Islay single malt standards, is not completely traditional. They use tall stills, and they use a slow distill method. So it doesn't come across like Lafroig or Ardbeg or other Islay single malts would. So, and they also use inland peat as opposed to coastal peat. So it also has an effect on their on the taste profile. So with this one, this is 50% ABV, aka 100 proof. I'm not exactly sure how you measure peating, but it is heavily peated. Not as heavily peated as the most heavily peated Scotch whiskey out there, Octomore, which is also made by Bruichladdich, which I will probably not review anytime soon because 1, I don't know where you would get it in Hawaii, and 2, it is insanely, ridiculously expensive. Age, no age statement on the bottle. Looking up on the internet, it's about 6 to 8 years. So, fairly young, which is probably why they don't put an age statement on there. They might also do it Solera style too, which is why they don't put an age statement. So, have 2 glasses here. 1 here. No water. This one with a few drops of water. See? Legs here are remarkably stiff. Holds up for almost a full second before it starts to recede down the glass. This one, where I added water, not so much, just kind of immediate. So that's how you can tell the difference right there. Note that this is not a huge amount of water that I add. As per usual, it's only literally a spoonful of water. I sort of measure it out that way. So a small spoonful. I have some water here to go and clear my palate in between tasting and nosing, the 2 types. Let's get to this, shall we? Not very strong smell from the glass here compared to other Islay single malts. There is that smoky peated smell, but it's kind of muted. It's actually behind the sort of sweetness that I've gotten from the other Bruichladdich scotches. Honey, heather, stone fruit. Smoky aspect is almost mineral in its, almost mineral in a way. Not medicinal, more mineral. It's a bit easy to get too close and sort of singe your nose there. I put a small amount of like smell on this so I can kind of clear my thing there. And let's go to the one with water added. Interestingly, the smoke kind of comes out a little bit more in this version. It's kind of mineral, almost seashore aspect. Adding a bit of water brings out the peat aspect a little bit more. And reduces that sort of honeyed stone fruit kind of smell there. All in all, not very intense smelling, but that also might be due to the intense amount of humidity today. It's very humid. And how does humidity affect sort of like nosing? Well, because the air is so laden with water, you know, the moisture of the water, it doesn't really evaporate off that well. You know, well, I guess it's not really evaporation. I think it's another chemical process, but it doesn't fill the air as well as it does on a drier day. Okay. Just clearing those nostrils by blowing it out a little bit. And this is just a nosing here. I'm already at 7 minutes, but I don't care. I'm going to take my time with this. Tastes a bit young. Kind of have an alcohol bite, especially in the mid palate. Very long lasting, nicely smoky finish, despite the fact it doesn't show up too much in the nose. In the palate there, in that finish, just long lasting. Kind of campfire smoke. Just a hint of medicinalness to it. Just a hint of iodine. Nothing like Lafroig or Ardbeg in that regard. Just a hint of pear in the front there. Kind of hard to suss out because there is a bit of a burn. On the palate, mildly oily, but not unpleasantly so. In the finish, also aspects of caramelization. Either caramelized wood, when it goes with the smoke, kind of like caramelized wood. When it goes with the sweetness, almost like caramelized sugar. I should note here that there's a certain baseline sweetness that's kind of higher than I've had in other Islay single malts. This is a little bit more on the sweet side compared to the ones I've had before, which were kind of dry to almost bone dry. Okay, now for the water added. Bite is much reduced just by that addition of water. Kind of makes the palate a little bit less, sensuous, a little bit less silky, a little bit less coating. But I find that you can taste nuances a lot better this way. There's still that sort of flowery honeyness that I found in all the sort of Bruichladdich scotches. Always up in the front. Here it's kind of front and center. Maybe a little bit less pear, maybe more apple-y, maybe. Mid palates, you know, during that transition from the front kind of fruit notes to the peaty notes, the smoky peat notes in the finish, you know, there's this very interesting kind of minerality that arises, almost like you know, kind of like sort of hints that you get when you're eating seafood, kind of ocean tasting. Yeah, really salty. Almost like a salty note in that mid there. Kind of passes quickly into the smokiness. Smokiness just has a lot of nice dimension. It is very long lasting, but it's not an overwhelming sort of thing. You get like that sort of campfire. You get kind of like the remnants of sweetness, getting caramelization there. Kind of almost baked bread notes too. Toasty notes up in the nose. You know, when you just kind of like let the more, you know, evaporative, effervescent notes hit up there. Very enjoyable. I'm really enjoying it with the addition of a small amount of water. Let's go back to it straight. Oh, and a quick note on coloration since I didn't discuss it. Just seems like a hair shade darker. Hair shade darker yellow than the other ones I've looked at. But still very light colored for a Scotch whiskey, probably due to the young age. It's amazing how much more thicker it feels on the tongue. How much more intense the sweetness and that sort of fruit taste in the front is in the pure form. And how much more, for lack of nicer way of saying it, burn is in the mid to finish and on the way down. You know, it is in the pure form. Like I said, it is literally a spoonful of water. Not like a big spoonful, but, you know, just like a normal kitchen silverware spoon. You know, your normal tablespoon. I'm just going to go and grab a spoon so I can show you. This is literally how much water I put into it. Just enough to fill this spoon. So just a normal kitchen spoon. As you can kind of see, that's really not a lot of water. But it makes a big difference in taste to me. Now some people, perhaps those who drink whiskey a lot more than me, can, you know, find those nuances past that sort of youthful heat. But as for myself, I'm going to definitely take this with water if and when I, you know, get to try this again. And who knows if and when that may be, because there is so many good Scotch whiskies out there and I so rarely get to try them. I almost want to gain. It's not like beer where every once in a while I can kind of return to certain ones that I like. With whiskeys, it's like I don't get it all that often, so I'm going to want to try a new one each time. But anyways, it's hitting almost the 15-minute mark here. Port Charlotte Scottish Barley, heavily peated Islay single malt from Bruichladdich. Here, from Bruichladdich. Interesting. It's heavily peated, but doesn't taste as heavily peated as some other Islay single malts. And, you know, just an interesting thing. Bit young for my palate, a bit hot for my palate, but still nicely complex underneath that sort of youthful vigor. Well, that is your single malt review for tonight, folks. Till next time, I'm going to be kind of busy, so I might not do as many reviews as I usually do. Cheers.